Hi, my name is Richard McLennan from the McLennan Collective. Today I'm here with Peter from Peter Bushby Real Estate. Hi Peter, how are you going?
Hi Richard, how are you?
I'm good, thanks.
That's good.
Mate, what are we going to be chatting about today?
Today I thought it'd be quite useful to be practical for a change and perhaps look at the marketing options for selling your property.
Yeah.
And what works and what doesn't in my view. So that's what we're going to be talking about briefly today.
Sounds interesting. Continue.
Okay, look, I'd stress these are my comments and opinions, and
Of course, yeah.
look, perhaps useful to look at the background first of all. Most properties here in Tasmania these days are listed on a sole agency basis or exclusive basis. Pretty rare these days to have an open listing or a multi-agent listing. And I thought perhaps before we get into the marketing side of things, perhaps look at the methods of sale that are primarily used in our marketplace, particularly under a sole agency environment.
For sure.
Everyone would be aware of auction. They're extensively used in eastern suburbs of Melbourne and Sydney and a lot of other mainland centres. Works very well in those environments. They're very used to it. Works well in a strong market, but it's not as prevalent here in our Launceston market. It's mostly used here for estates, mortgagee sales, and where a property has some significant characteristics that are going to create competition. So that's really reserved for that domain.
Yeah, right.
An auction is very public and there are a lot of unknowns, of course, and so with that certain pressures. It's usually about a month lead up to the auction and with a set date and set documentation. Another one that we're wanting a competitive environment is a tender, another alternative, and where you want a competitive environment where buyers potentially with a tender are forced to make a one-off first-up offer, so it sort of forces interested parties to from the outset
It forces their hand, doesn't it?
to put in an offer in that respect. It can be useful where multiple properties are being offered or where there's potential for varied outcomes, so it's quite beneficial in that respect. Similarly, it's usually about a month lead up to a tender, has a closing date and has prescribed documentation.
Yes.
And these very usually are reserved right to not accept any tenders should they not be acceptable. Another one is expressions of interest, and that's very much like a tender, but it's a little bit more informal. And it's used sometimes for residential property as well as commercial. Private treaty, which is the one that most people buy and sell in Tasmania, use, and it's usually with the new legislation for a period of up to 120 days as an agency appointment. The first way, and the way that most property is sold, is by a set price, and I'm a bit old school and I must admit I tend to favour that in most instances. Not a big fan of offers over or sale by price ranges. I find that the buyers tend to only see the bottom figure and work from that basis. They don't see the higher figure in the range, and I know I don't when I look at that sort of scenario. Similarly, offers over, people tend to focus on the figure rather than paying more.
Yes.
So I think buyers find that whole process fairly frustrating.
Yeah, right.
So perhaps if we turn now to the main marketing tools and so on that they use, newspapers historically, for my 40 odd years, been the primary area that people have found out about property in a marketing sense. Traditionally it's been there, but it's certainly changing. The internet's had a massive effect on that. I'm not a big fan on big ads these days. I think they potentially are a serious waste of money, and the big ads tend to, if they're there, tend to be used to make the agencies look bigger.
So you would say that they work for the agent more so than the property?
I think they do these days. I think an ad in the newspaper's gone very, very quickly. A placement on the internet is there for the life of the listing, and
exactly.
It's a lot more descriptive of what the property is all about. That's where it leads me into the internet property portals, and that's really where it's happening, and whether your emphasis on marketing in the main needs to be. It's important though to have a good placement within that environment. You can get lost in the doldrums. There's a lot of properties on the market. You're down the back. Some people don't search that deep. So,
and that's right. And some of your listings, or all your listings, are Premier on your.
Yeah, any houses and units listed go straight to Premier, which is the best possible placement you can get on realestate.com, which is the predominant property portal.
Yes.
We also use Domain and Real Estate View, the two next biggest Australian portals. So that's where it's all shifted to in recent years. It's also important for the agent to have a strong website, and it needs to be easy to use and easy to access, and it needs to be very much mobile friendly these days. So much is done now with phones and tablets, and it's got to have the capacity to sort of deliver in that area. I'm very proud of my new SiteLoft actual website that really delivers beautifully in that respect. So I like that.
That's right.
That's coming
Just
together.
the other day I was using one, and it was certainly poles apart from your website there, Peter. That certainly easy to use on a mobile phone.
But I think they've got to be simple too. That's people just want information; they don't want a lot of baggage around it. Signage, that's the old silent salesperson standing at the front. It's very cost effective. I don't think it's necessary with mobile devices and the capacity to get to good quality photos online that you need too many photos out the front. You just need to signify that the property's for sale. I'm not a big lover of big photos of salespeople on the signs. I think that the focus should be on the property, not the salespeople. I think all that needs to be on the sign in that respect is who is handling it and how you contact them. But that's my view on that one. Brochures, good old hard copy brochures are still a basic, although you do find these days a lot of people are printing their own off the websites. E-brochures is an area that a lot of people don't even know is happening. And yet it's really a very important part of modern day marketing.
And those e-brochures can be obtained from realestate.com.
Look, the only way you really get them is through having your property listed on realestate.com, and Domain also generate e-brochures.
Yes.
Depending on your service that you're using as to how they're generated, but I certainly make them available for any properties that are listed, house or units, through that means. Displays, they're probably more a nostalgic thing than anything else. Certainly offices can survive these days without having a display, but they're nice to sort of have for the tourists and people wandering around, but it's there's an element that I still see some benefit in. Social media is the other area that's emerging dramatically. I think proof that you actually might be watching this today indicates that there's a move into this area, and obviously properties getting marketed, and the fact that a new property's coming on, it's so easy to let people know, and all that goes with it. So that's the way of the future, I think, more and more.
All that sounds fantastic, and to focus on the basics and do the basics really well, I think, is a lost art nowadays, Pete. What really works, and where should the focus be?
Look, I think fundamentally the focus and energy and expenditure needs to go on as you say, the fundamentals. Forget all the marginal stuff. These days, a strong internet presence, some newspaper, principally just supporting open homes and that sort of thing. Signage and support materials, as in brochures, e-brochures, and social media management, I think are the areas that are where you're best served to focus. One other interesting area that I think is worth noting is photographs. It's important to have good quality photographs that are actually representative of the property. I really dislike the use of fisheye type lens photos. I think they are almost misleading, and certainly anticlimactic when a buyer gets to a property and they find that it's not what they were thinking it was going to be. So I refuse to use them, and I sort of find that we should be steering clear of that.
What's the old saying? It looks so much bigger on the internet.
Well, that's the risk, and I think I prefer people to be pleasantly surprised and not unhappy when they get to a property and realise that they're getting a representative photograph opportunity when they sort of are looking at it online.
Definitely.
Look, if I could perhaps just remind people now, with the changes 1st of April, agency agreements are restricted to a maximum of 120 days at a time. They must contain a termination period of a maximum of 30 days, and no carryover provisions are allowed beyond the length of the agency. So that's just something to keep in mind in relation to listings.
Okay, Pete. Well, thanks so much for sharing your thoughts on marketing options for when you're selling your home. What's your topic for next week?
Look, I thought next week we might take a look at just how well the Launceston property market is doing. The Real Estate Institute Tasmania reported yesterday that we've had a 13% improvement in this last quarter in sale volumes over the same time last year, but our median prices actually dropped 6%. So I thought we might dig a bit deeper into that next week. And
I'm really looking forward to that. That sounds great.
And as far as open homes this Saturday, out at Westbury, 166 King Street, a nice big character home on a big block out there. It's priced at $428. Peter Darrow will be there and have it open from 11 to 11:30. And I'm opening again a unit down at Riverside. I'm surprised it hasn't sold, although we do have some interest in it. It's a 2-bedroom one. It's at 4 Iris Close. I'm opening at 9:30 to 10. It's actually got level access, a garage internal with access internally, and it actually enjoys really terrific payment reviews, and the price of it's only $209,000.
Gee, sounds like something I'd be interested in.
Look, it's a good property for somebody wanting a nice, tidy little unit. Look, and on that, thanks everyone for watching, and I hope you can join me again next week at 12 noon next Thursday. So thanks again for watching.
Thanks. Lovely chatting to you, Pete.